I'm going to share my best 116 tips for KCD2 after playing for 250 hours and completing 100% achievements. I've split everything up into categories with timestamps to make it easy to come back to, and I've shared the Notion page with my script so you can Control F to find the exact info you're looking for quickly. There are no spoilers, and I avoided talking about any quests. Let's get into the tips. You can stab people outside of locked-on combat by holding the block button and pressing attack. This is extremely useful when engaging people who aren't aware that you're there yet. Run up to them and stab them in the face for lethal amounts of damage. This is most useful on armored targets because slashing attacks won't cause much damage, and you can oftentimes get hits to their uncovered face. Enemies can be slowed down if you damage them enough to any body part, not just the legs. If you're attacked by several enemies, it can be helpful to wound as many as you can while you back up, slowing them down so they can't surround you. Or take some shots to wound them before getting stuck in melee. When fighting off dogs and wolves, it's best to play defensively and always keep moving. Wait for them to attack, execute a perfect block, and a single riposte. If you've got a more advanced character, you can try for a second attack, but there's a risk you'll get bit from the side or behind, and it's usually best to be patient and wait for the next attack. When in melee combat, you have 5 ways of hurting an opponent: a regular attack, a combo attack, a riposte off a perfect block, a master strike, which only works for swords and unarmed combat, and finally the clinch. Each of these attacks has its own strengths and weaknesses, and it's really important to learn them all and know when to use which one. Regular attacks are great in any and all situations. You can hit once and fall back when you're outnumbered to avoid being surrounded. You can use a feint where you hold the attack button and quickly change the direction the attack comes from and have a higher chance to land the strike. You also have more control over which direction the attack comes from, which is critical when fighting against an enemy with a sword. Never attack from the opposite side or you'll open yourself up to a master strike. Combos are great for dealing a ton of damage in a short amount of time, but can be challenging to pull off and can also get you into trouble against multiple enemies. Combos need either 3 or 4 unanswered hits to pull off, and higher level opponents will usually dodge or riposte before you can get a combo off. And against a sword-wielding enemy, trying to pull off a combo can easily result in you being hit with a master strike, since at least one of your attacks will be coming from the opposite side of your enemy. So be sure to use caution when trying these. Against a tough opponent, the best time to start a combo is off of a riposte, since the first strike will never come from the opposite side as the enemy's weapon position, meaning you will at least avoid a master strike for this attack. Because of this, it's good to memorize at least one combo that starts from each direction so you can quickly combo no matter what direction your riposte comes from. A riposte is one of my least favorite ways to damage an enemy since they are nearly always blocked by high-level opponents. Instead of using ripostes as damage dealers, try to think of them as combo starters and combo blockers. If you only block enemies' attacks and don't riposte, you'll quickly get comboed for free damage. If you riposte every single attack, you'll end up with 0 stamina left and 0 damage done to the enemy. Since the enemy's combo will usually complete on the 3rd or the 4th attack, never let the enemy attack more than 2 times without a response from you. I typically perfect block their first attack to save my stamina, and if they chain a second attack, I'll riposte that to stop their combo. Master strikes are some of the highest damage attacks you can do. They are executed by having your weapon on the opposite side of the enemies when they attack, and instead of blocking, you attack. These attacks cannot be blocked and do a massive amount of damage even against armored opponents. Not all master strikes are created equal though. It can be beneficial to wait on one side for the enemy to attack so you can get the one that does more damage, even if it means passing up the opportunity to master strike from other directions. Personally, I prefer master strikes with my weapon on the left, followed up by up and down, and finally master strikes from the right. They all do good damage, but master strikes from the right seem to do less overall. The clinch will probably be the most underutilized combat mechanic that I hope you don't ignore. You can initiate a clinch by moving forward into an enemy. You can increase the odds of getting into a clinch by tapping the sprint button to close the distance. But keep your block ready because the AI loves to spam attacks when you move in. Once in the clinch, you either need to be able to attack or defend. If you get the direction compass in red, you'll need to attack from the direction indicated. If you get the shield, you'll need to perfect block to avoid being hit. There are usually 2 hits associated with the clinch, so be ready. If you're able to attack, you'll typically get up to 2 free hits off. If you're defending, then you'll have a chance to riposte after the enemy's attack, and you'll land that hit with a fairly high frequency. Be sure to use clinches and use them often. In melee combat against armored opponents, you'll sometimes need to drain their stamina or damage their gear enough to get meaningful damage in. You can drain their stamina by executing perfect blocks and baiting them into attacking you through countless riposte attacks. Once they're drained, initiate a feint or a combo and you'll ignore much of their armor and chunk their health down. The most important focus in combat should always be defense, since you can't land any attacks when you're dead. Every weapon you'll fight against has a different timing for the perfect block, so pay attention to when the green shield comes up and not so much on the opponent's actual movements. Sword attacks come very fast, while heavy weapons can sometimes have a delay. But polearms are the hardest to time because most attacks are slow as a turtle, but they have a couple moves that are lightning fast. Try to remember different weapons' movesets to get better at defense. If you try to block too early, you'll see the usual green shield turn into a red shield with a crack down the middle. This means you miss the perfect block timing and the enemy will land their attack with 100% accuracy. Be patient and wait for the green shield. In this case, it's better to be a little too late than too early since you might still catch their attack in time, but blocking early will always result in you taking a hit. My favorite type of attack is the thrust, which can be done with swords and polearms. These attacks generally pierce armor better and are very fast to pull off. With a lot of practice, you can learn to thrust as an enemy swings from the side or overhead and beat them to the hit, causing guaranteed damage and stopping their attack before it lands. When fighting against more than one opponent, positioning is incredibly important. Always circle away from the most dangerous enemies and towards the weakest, usually the ones with the worst looking gear. Try to pick off the weakest ones first, since that will be the safest path to evening the odds. Don't hesitate to turn and sprint away to reposition closer to the weaker enemies and to get them to bunch up and avoid being encircled. Also, keep your attacks appropriate to the amount of time that you have. Don't initiate a 4-hit combo against an enemy that's in the middle of their group. Instead, hit them once, maybe twice, and then move. Avoid animation-heavy attacks like certain master strikes with a long kill animation. The enemy will begin to encircle you while your animation plays out and you'll get stuck after. Single hits, single ripostes, and moving are your best friend here. There are a ton of damage stacking bonuses throughout the game, and it can make a huge difference to stack as many of these as you can. For example, we can take Finesse 1 and 2 to increase our slash damage by 10%. Then Battlecry 1 and 2 for an additional 15%. Then Razor Sharp for another 10%. And finally Cleaver for a further 15%. It all adds up to a massive 50% increase in damage. Look through the perks and try to plan what weapons you'll use and stack bonuses accordingly. We're also cataloging every single perk in the game, so stay tuned for that database in the near future. You can learn new combos from master trainers from all over the map. I won't cover any spoilers in this video and show you where they are, but we're working on a database for that if you're interested. Be sure to keep an eye out for these combat specialists to get more combos. I mentioned the shouting perk earlier from speech, but you must use it while in combat to get the bonus. When you're in combat, hold down Alt or whatever your interaction button is to bring up the options. Shout is usually the second option. Some of the shouts are pretty hilarious too.
Burn in hell!
Archery competitions are a great way to level up several skills and make some cash. You get strength, agility, marksmanship, and even a little bit of speech XP. You can find them on the map by looking for this symbol here. The XP amount seems to be tied to the shots you take with a small bonus at the end, so find the tournament skill level that you're most confident in winning because the XP gain will be roughly the same in the long run. If you plan to grind out archery tournaments, be sure to grab a couple archery repair kits, because your bow or crossbow will wear out quickly. They usually cost around 25 groschen per kit, so winning the easiest skill level will be enough to pay for a kit. Each bow and crossbow has a different draw strength and arrow trajectory, so try to learn it before entering combat. The archery competitions are a great place to calibrate while also earning XP and some money. The aim point for this specific bow is here, which is much more vertically aligned with the tip of your arrow than in KCD1. And this crossbow is dead center, you just need to line up the vertical. To get really good at ranged combat, try to find a pre-shot routine that you can use for every single shot. Make it a habit. My personal pre-shot routine for bows starts with a draw above the target, and then I slowly come down and to the right to get a sight picture. I'll typically get into a rhythm and release the arrow at about the same time after the draw, every time. Do it enough times and it'll become a habit, and it'll feel much more natural. Crossbows are much easier to shoot with since the head of the bolt lines up perfectly with the flight path. Your main goal is to figure out how much of the vertical drop to adjust for and aim up or down accordingly. If you struggle with the bow, I highly recommend trying out a crossbow as it's much easier to get the hang of. The biggest difference is bow's rate of fire is much faster than the crossbow. Guns are incredibly difficult to aim accurately, but in general, you want to line your target above your gun barrel and slightly to the left. It helps to go to a secluded spot and practice taking shots at a wall or fence. Figure out where the projectile is going and adjust your aim from there. I've taken literally over 1,000 shots and I still struggle aiming this thing accurately, so don't get frustrated if you suck at it, it's normal. The most effective use of a gun is against an armored target who either doesn't see you or is already engaged with somebody else in melee combat. The loading and aiming sequence is extremely slow, and getting the shot off before they reach you can be hard to do. Once they hit you the first time, you'll be stun locked and won't be able to switch to your sidearm, so use the gun as a surprise weapon more than a full frontal weapon. Bow and crossbow can be used effectively at close range once you get to level 18 and take the perk Eagle Eye, which slows down time for a few seconds and allows you to line up an easy face shot. An enemy with an open helmet can easily be dropped from close range with a single shot to the face, so no need to switch to melee.
Dodge this, you bastard!
When shooting at people, either enemy or neutral, they will automatically run to the spot you shot from. Be sure to relocate as soon as your shot goes off if you expect multiple people to run your way. Depending on your stealth skill, you might not need to move very far to get another shot off. Ammunition is incredibly important, especially when dealing with armored enemies. Don't save your expensive ammo for a rainy day. Use it early and often against tough opponents. It can be the difference between shooting somebody 2 times versus shooting them 15 times. If you plan to shoot an enemy, then switch to melee combat as they approach, be sure to switch your weapons earlier than you think you need to. The AI is programmed to spam attacks, and each attack landed will cancel your weapon change animation, and you'll be stuck, stun locked, trying to switch with a ranged weapon in hand. Alchemy XP is granted based on the quality of the potion and not how many you produce, so the perks that give you more production per cycle do not give you more XP. However, those perks are still great if you plan to use a lot of potions or you plan to sell them for a profit. All alchemy crafts give the same XP amounts no matter how involved the process is to make them. Some potions are much faster to make than others, like the marigold decoction and chamomile decoction. So if your goal is to power level alchemy, be sure to focus on the easiest recipes you have. If you spend enough time at an alchemy bench, you'll unlock the Lab Dweller perk for free, which makes potions and alcohol last longer and hangovers shorter. I don't know the exact amount of time it takes to get this, but I unlocked mine before I left the starting town, and my alchemy level was around 12 to 14. As your alchemy skill increases and you take certain perks, you can skip steps in the brewing process. However, it's not always a good idea to take shortcuts. Your XP gain will decrease and you'll get fewer potions. Also, to get to the best tier potions, you need to follow the recipe perfectly, but the extra bonuses are definitely worth it. If you're having trouble finding a specific herb for crafting, you can consult the herb section to find out where it grows. This can be found on the crafting tab, then the herb tab. Some herbs are much easier to find than others, belladonna being the hardest one for me personally to find. If all else fails, you can steal or buy it from an apothecary. If you spend enough time smithing items, you'll unlock the Hammerer Hidden perk, which grants you 10% less stamina consumption when attacking or blocking with heavy weapons. I don't have unlock time numbers on this, but I'll test it before we do the blacksmithing guide, which is going to be real soon. You can quickly level craftsmanship using a grinding wheel. Take the most expensive bladed weapon you own, take the durability down to 0 by increasing the sharpening angle to the max. You'll see smoke when you're doing it right. Then get off the bench to confirm it's at 0, go back and sharpen it to 100%. You'll get a small amount of XP for dulling the blade, but you'll get a huge amount of XP for repairing it back to 100%. Henry will now make a comment about how sharp the blade is once you reach 100%. However, if your blade is already close to 100%, say like 90% or higher, then he won't make that comment when you reach 100. An easy fix is to dull the blade down some, then hop back on and sharpen it to 100% and he'll make a comment. In the current patch, blacksmithing doesn't seem to take into account how accurate your work is, so even if you burn your piece and hammer the exact same spot only, you'll still end up with a max tier item. I'm sure this will be patched later, but for now, don't worry about being perfect as it will still result in a great item. One of the fastest ways to level craftsmanship is not making items, but repairing them. If you have a ton of money or a high theft skill, procure all the repair kits you can and repair the damaged gear you loot from your enemies. Much like in KCD1, you can go from level 5 to level 30 in a matter of minutes if you have enough repair kits and damaged items. Crafting your own weapons can be a great way to squeeze a little more damage out. A typical craft will be anywhere from tier 1 to tier 3 with drastically different stats on each. At level 16 craftsmanship, you can unlock the Martin's secret perk and be able to craft up to tier 4 weapons for even more damage. These weapons will also sell for more, so it can be a great way to make money as well. Level 10 survival perk Lucky Find allows you to pick up extra items from the ground at random when picking herbs. I've gotten alchemy materials like wolf fangs and antler shards, useful items like lockpicks and dice, expensive jewelry, and even ammunition for bow and crossbow. This is a great perk to take if you plan to sell herbs or make potions. Going around town to discover shops and utility spots like a drying rack, sharpening stone, etc. will grant a decent amount of survival XP, so make sure you run around each town to soak up that free XP. You get survival XP for collecting animal parts and herbs, but they will quickly degrade over time unless you use a drying rack. Fortunately, drying also grants another chunk of XP, making survival one of the easiest skills to level, especially in the early game. The fastest way to level up survival is by collecting herbs and drying them in bulk, or by hunting big game like stag and deer. Each time you bend down to pick up herbs, you'll gain 5 XP no matter what you're picking up or how many you gather. You'll also get 0.5 XP per herb that you dry, and you can easily collect 1,000 herbs per hour or more. Killing a stag will give you 80 XP, and then butchering it will give you another 30 XP. While you get some XP for other things like killing and butchering pigs, cows, dogs, etc., it's not worth your time compared to these other two methods. Level 8 flower power increases our charisma by 2 by having at least 30 herbs in your inventory. Herbs actually weigh 0.1 each, so for 3 pounds of weight, it's well worth the hassle. Dried herbs also qualify for this, so I recommend picking 30 of any herb, drying them out, and just leaving them in your inventory for the duration of the playthrough. You don't get stealth XP from sneaking around in legal areas. If you want to level stealth quickly, find a blue off-limits area to sneak around in. The starting town has a great loft above the barn that you can gain 10 to 15 levels quickly in only a few minutes. It will also give agility XP as well. If someone spots you, they'll ask you to leave, but you won't immediately be arrested or fined like in red areas. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 now allows you to shoot while sneaking, which has 2 benefits. You're harder to spot when taking aim, and you get stealth XP for each shot you hit. Even if you don't plan to use stealth much, be sure to crouch for each shot you take because it's free XP for doing the same thing you're already going to do anyways. Sometimes when sneaking around, you'll need to toss a rock or whisper to get somebody to move or look a different direction. This can be useful for moving somebody out of a doorway, but it's also useful to get somebody off of a wall so you can pickpocket them. Be sure they don't see you toss the rock or they won't fall for it. The 3 most important stats for sneaking around are conspicuousness, noise, and visibility. Conspicuousness determines how fast somebody will go from detecting you to actually spotting you and chasing you around. Visibility determines how far away somebody can start to detect you, and noise determines how likely somebody is to hear you when sneaking around. All of these are important, but noise is definitely the most important in my opinion, so keep your noise stat low. One of the biggest ways to get caught stealing in the new theft system is by leaving doors open that shouldn't be. Be sure to close doors behind you in areas you're not supposed to be in. Not only will this limit people's vision of you, but it won't prompt them to go looking for you and search their chest for stolen items. When you're trying to assassinate people with a lower level character, you'll have to worry about your target defending themselves. You'll get the crossed swords icon when it's time to hit the attack button to execute the stab. But if your opponent is stronger than you, they will likely counter it. You'll have a very short window of opportunity to counter their counter and still stab, which you can see here as the shield icon. You need to quickly press block, followed by another attack to finish them off. Even after 200 hours, I'm still not confident in hitting this move every time because of how fast it is and how precise you need to be. So it might be worth it to level strength and stealth higher before trying it on higher level opponents. When using stealth, a rabbit animation will appear at the top of the screen if somebody suspects foul. When the rabbit is using the magnifying glass, it means somebody is looking for you but won't chase you yet because they haven't spotted you. When the rabbit is facing forward and the ears are starting to point upward, it means somebody has started to spot you but they haven't quite made you out yet, and you'll have time to move away or get behind cover. You can hide behind trees, buildings, objects, or in a bush to get the ears to go back down and break line of sight. You're never caught until the ears go all the way up, so don't worry about them moving up if you have cover to move to. If you steal enough items through pickpocketing, you'll unlock the hidden perk Sticky Fingers, which grants you extra groschen every time you pickpocket people. It also grants more money from looting corpses, although I don't have data by how much. I also don't know how many thefts you need to unlock this perk, but I'll be testing it soon for the Thief Guide. Smithing and alchemy recipes are great to steal because you can instantly learn them and the recipe is consumed. You'll still have to pay the fine if you get caught, but at least there's no way to remove the knowledge from your brain. Items stolen from traders will respawn after a few days, which can include crafting materials, raw groschen, gear, etc. I'll typically plan a route to hit up all the blacksmiths in a region before I leave to the other map. Then, when I return later, they will be restocked and ready to pilfer again. Stolen items can be sold to traders if you mix them in with non-stolen items. Over time, stolen items will lose their stolen status, with more expensive items taking longer. The Speech level 10 perk Hustler allows you to sell more stolen goods, while the level 20 Speech perk allows you to sell all stolen items without any issues. The level 12 Craftsman perk, Totally Legit, reduces the time it takes for stolen weapons, armor, and clothing to lose their stolen status. And level 16 Thievery perk Trafficker will cause all items to lose their stolen status 25% faster. There are some actions in the game that will cause you to lose an item, such as turning in an item for a quest or paying a trainer to teach your skills. If your thievery skill is high enough, you can simply steal the item back or the money spent, basically double dipping in the reward. Lockpicking can earn huge rewards, but it's hard to get away with in the early game because of the noise you generate at lower levels and lock difficulty. It's often safer to steal the keys and use them to open chests silently than it is to pick the locks. At higher levels, lockpicking is doable even with them sleeping right next to the chest. Craftsmanship level 12 perk Locksmith increases your lockpicking skill by +3 and gives free lockpicks with each blacksmith item you craft. So for an aspiring thief, it can really pay to level up craftsmanship to get this perk. Do not wear items you stole in the area that you stole them from, or people will recognize them and turn you in to the guards. It's usually a best practice to steal items and put them away in your home storage chest until the stolen tag falls off. It's too easy to forget where items came from, and the extra micromanagement isn't worth it in my opinion. Theft from lockpicking and looting chests is different from lockpicking people. If you steal from a chest and they see you around their house, they will eventually turn you in, sometimes immediately and sometimes hours later or even the next day. Pickpocketing is only risky when you're in the actual act of stealing something, and they will never come after you for stolen items even if they spot you in a restricted area later. To steal from chests, I recommend going into a town at night and avoid being seen by anyone at all times. Take what you can and get out. Even if people don't spot you inside their house, they can still turn you in later if they see you around once they realize things have been stolen. The safest way to level up thievery in the early game is to pickpocket people who are isolated, like farmers in the field or woodworkers are the best because they're preoccupied and won't turn around. Leveling it in a busy city is a nightmare, so pick a small town and find people who are by themselves to train your skills. Once your thievery skill is in the teens, you can quickly and safely get more XP by lockpicking everything from medium and below. The XP gains are much higher than pickpocketing usually, but it's not safe to lockpick in crowded areas at low levels, so make sure you have a high enough skill, and pick good targets. Be careful when drinking too much. You'll eventually black out and end up at some random spot on the map. I've passed out in the far west of the map only to wake up on the far east of it. Also, people can steal literally everything you have on you when you're passed out, so be careful where you get wasted. XP gain for drinking is easy. Higher alcohol content gives more XP, so drink the highest percent drink you have to gain levels the fastest. Schnapps at 20% is my go-to drink. Be aware, if you drink too much over the course of several days, you will become addicted to alcohol, which lowers all of your main stats by 10. I wasn't able to get rid of this debuff by waiting for several weeks, but I was able to with Hair of the Dog potions. Depending on your playstyle, some of the drinking perks can be really good. For a thief, level 10 Drunk's Luck increases your thievery skill by 4. For crafting or sharpening blades, level 10 Heavy Duty increases your craftsmanship by 4. You do need to be drunk to get these bonuses, but when managed properly, it can make a big difference. Houndmaster is the fastest skill to level in the game by a massive margin. You get XP by praising Mutt, beating him, participating in exploration and combat with you. The XP gain is cut in half for a short period of time if you repeat an action. The first feed gives you 47, the second feed gives you only 25, and so on. So be sure to space out those actions to get the full value. You can wait in place for an hour and spam them to speed it up.
What have you done to her?
When feeding Mutt, be sure you're on as flat of ground as possible, as the meat you drop will roll away and he won't end up eating it. You can pick the meat back up if it keeps rolling and drop it again on flatter terrain. Mutt can be used to help you in certain quests. You can order Mutt to sniff these quest items and he will slowly follow the scent trail and lead you closer to where you need to be. Be sure to have Mutt by your side when taking on new quests in case you need him.
Aye, aye, you silly doggy.
Mutt can be incredibly helpful in combat, effectively tying up one opponent from attacking you. This can help level the odds when you're outnumbered, or allow you to get free hits against a tougher opponent. If he gets hurt or you accidentally whack him with your weapon, he'll run away, but don't worry, he can't die and he always comes back.
Mutt! Oh, he's run off again, the little beast.
Level 10 Charming Companion is a great perk that increases your charisma by 3. Charisma is difficult to increase and helps with chat checks and getting better prices with merchants, so any bonus we can stack here helps a lot. Finally, in KCD2 we actually get Horsemanship XP for doing mounted combat. While you can level Horsemanship by riding around, it's significantly faster to level through combat. The fastest way I've found is to whack cows out in the countryside. I've yet to be caught once for slaughtering animals in over 200 hours, so it's very safe. Horse equipment can provide benefits like movement speed, carry capacity, courage, and stamina, but they also come with a downside. A saddle increases carry capacity at the expense of movement speed. I recommend unequipping items that reduce movement speed until you absolutely need them, like on a loot run. You only need the carry capacity when you're full, so take advantage of the faster movement speed by removing your saddle until then. Horses are controlled a bit differently from KCD1. You use shift to increase your speed from a trot to a canter and finally to a gallop. To slow down one step, you press S. When you're at the lower two speeds, you need to continue pressing W or forward to keep moving, but at the fastest speed, you can let go and the horse will continue forward on its own. In order to gallop, you need to press shift several times to increase this bar right here. As you gallop, your horse will slowly lose this bar. Once your bar reaches 0, the horse will slow down to a canter. Pressing shift will increase this bar once again, but be careful not to press it while it's maxed out, or your horse might throw you off. It will also throw you off if this bar is still going when the horse runs out of stamina. Slow down to a canter or a trot to recover the horse's stamina. You can find your old horse Pebbles near the starting town, but her stats are quite bad. However, you can get her for free through a quest, and if you ride her for 30 kilometers, her stats will jump up considerably to become one of the best horses in the game. I recommend staying on Pebbles from the start and avoid fast traveling until you reach the 30 kilometer mark. You can check in player statistics under the General tab to see how far you've traveled on horseback, but be aware you need 30 kilometers with Pebbles specifically, and the number here shows your total travel on any horse you've ridden. So if you don't get it right at 30 kilometers, keep going. Mine popped around the 36 kilometer mark. Scholarship is probably the least useful skill in the game as it only governs how fast you learn skills when reading skill books. Since time passing in KCD2 is mostly irrelevant, you can take your time reading books and it won't negatively affect your playthrough. The biggest benefit to having scholarship skill comes from having chat checks, so it's still worth having. The only way to gain scholarship is through reading. You'll gain XP by reading lore books, skill books, and recipes for smithing and alchemy. Most shops will sell books, but the best place to find books is the scribe, as they stock all kinds. You'll get around 6.5 XP per page, so longer books are better. Most of the perks in Scholarship are pretty decent, but Explorer is by far the best. It reveals the entire map, including every single point of interest. Hunting spots, camping spots, bandit hideouts, fast travel points, literally everything. If you're a fan of manually exploring the map, then maybe skip this perk, but I personally love it and push for level 18 to get it early. If you find a skill book for a skill you already have maxed out, but you don't have Scholarship or Speech maxed, it's worth spending the time to read the skill book for the extra Scholarship and Speech XP. It only takes a few hours to finish, and you can sell the book after for a nice profit. Each level of strength increases your carry capacity by 10, but there are also several perks that will increase it further. Pack Mule and Strong as a Bull give flat weight capacity gains, while Well Built increases the per level gain by 2. This perk is under main level and not strength, and can be taken at level 16. With all of these and level 30 strength, you can carry up to 410 pounds of gear and loot. Strength determines how much damage your melee attacks and bow shots do, so leveling it quickly is important. My two preferred methods for power leveling strength are walking around while overburdened and killing livestock. The more overburdened you are, the more XP you'll get. For a short 45 to 60 second walk, I gain nearly 200 strength XP walking with too much loot. You can also get around 15 XP per kill of any kind, and fighting a herd of 6 to 10 animals isn't uncommon, which turns into 90 to 150 XP. Since bandits and other enemies give the exact same XP as animals, it's much easier and faster and safer to find animals than bandits to level quickly. Practice fighting with trainers is not a good way to gain strength XP. I tracked XP gain to roughly 14 XP for every 5 minutes of training sessions, which is 5 to 10x slower than killing animals or walking around while overburdened. Find some sheep or cows to level it up, or get a ton of loot and get walking. Archery competitions are also a great way to level strength, gaining around 50 XP for a 10-shot tournament and 90 for a 50-shot tournament. If you're accurate, you can also make good money while you're at it. Agility levels up based on the weapons you're using, but also most activities associated with theft and crime. The easiest way to level agility is through archery competitions or sneaking around restricted areas. You can either spam tournaments or find a safe spot with the blue warning and simply sneak around there to level it quickly. If you're planning on using sneak at all, creeping Phantom 1 and 2 are critical as it increases your movement speed by a massive amount while sneaking. This allows you to get in and out of restricted areas faster, back up after taking shots at enemies, and closing the distance to assassinate people with a dagger. These perks should be your #1 priority. The Die Hard perk is one of the best perks in the game and should be taken at level 16 without a thought. It avoids death once per cooldown and returns your HP back to 25%. However, it does not give you 25% HP back, but continues to give you HP until it reaches 25%. So if you're surrounded and taking massive damage, you'll regen right through it all until you hit that 25% mark. This perk is OP and should be prioritized. Vitality is leveled in much the same way as strength, archery competitions, and walking while overburdened. You can also level it quickly by vaulting over fences or jumping in place. Find a doorway that will stop your jump early, and you can increase your jumping rate dramatically and level vitality quickly. Speech XP is linked to many different activities, including talking to people, listening in on other people's conversations, successfully using chat checks, reading books, and more. Try to talk to everybody you can. Use chat checks when possible, haggle with traders, etc. to increase your speech. It's the hardest skill in the game to level, so hit it early and often. Some achievements require chat checks to get, so if you're planning on collecting those, you should prioritize speech leveling early on.
You just clap everyone in the stocks right away.
There are a ton of speech chat checks in the game now, both from main quests, side quests, and general dialogue not connected to quests. Passing the chat checks can avoid fights, earn you more money or items, and so much more, so it makes sense to level all the skills up to be able to use them. Be careful with skill chat checks. Most will decrease your reputation if you fail them. Some options like intimidation will decrease your reputation when you pass as well, so try to think how the person would feel in real life if you tried it on them.
Calm down!
At level 10, the Jack of all trades perk should be taken as it increases your skill checks by +2. But more importantly, it increases the speech XP gain by 100% from skill checks. In my main playthrough, I've got roughly 120 hours in, and I've spoken to everybody, completed 99% of available quests, and I'm still at level 27, so the sooner you get XP boosts for speech, the better. The level 20 speech perk makes it so all stolen items can be sold immediately without any issues. For a thief run, this perk should be prioritized, but be aware, you need to take level 10 Hustler first to be able to unlock Partner in Crime. The fastest way to gain speech XP is to succeed at chat checks and to read any and all literature. This includes books lying around that can't be picked up, lore books, skill books, alchemy recipes, smithing recipes, maps, and anything else you can get your greedy little mittens on. Don't read for the knowledge, read for the speech XP. Dried herbs sell for the same amount as freshly picked ones, so be sure to get survival XP by drying everything before you sell them to traders. However, meats are a bit different. Dried meats give less nutrition, but sell for more money. Smoked meats give more nutrition, but sell for less, and smoked meats still degrade over time. So smoke the meats you plan to eat and dry the meats you plan to sell. Traders will give you more or less money based on the type of store they run. For example, you can sell potions to several different traders, but the apothecary will pay more per potion because it's their craft. Sell weapons to the weaponsmith, armor to the armorsmith, clothes to the tailor, and so on. The general trader should be the last resort as they pay the least of all traders. If you're trying to steal and sell horses, be sure to do it during the day because your stolen horse will walk away when you dismount and wait for time to pass. You cannot wait for time to pass while you're mounted, so your only options are to wait forever or fast travel back and forth until the daytime.
What the f?
Weapons and armor degrade with usage, and damaged gear sells for less than fully repaired gear. Bladed weapons are free to repair on a grindstone, so be sure to sharpen everything before heading to the weaponsmith to sell them, and use repair kits to repair armor if you have them. Crafting potions can be one of the best ways to earn money in the early game. There's plenty of herbs all over the map, and alchemy benches are free to use. The higher level alchemy you have, the more potions you'll craft, and the more money you'll make, which quickly snowballs. Hunting animals can be a decent way to make money while also leveling other skills at the same time. As your survival skill increases, you'll get access to perks that give more items when butchering animals, and the skill itself will give you more meat. So be sure to have a good horse and saddle to help carry everything, and be sure to dry all the meat products you're selling to get maximum value. Crafting in itself isn't the most lucrative way to make money because the material costs and how slow it is, but if you combine it with theft, you'll fare much better. All smithies around the map will have a storage chest with tons of crafting materials, which you can steal and instantly turn into inventory to sell. The crafted weapons are not considered stolen and are ready to sell right away, netting you a nice profit margin of infinite %.
It's free real estate.
The second best way to make money in KCD2 is from combat loot. Most mid and late game quests have high level armor and weapons for you to take and sell after, and there are a ton of bandit camps all over the map to attack and loot. You'll also run across ambushes when traveling between towns, which all add up to a lot of money. There are very few perks that are exclusive, meaning if you take one, it blocks another. Nearly all perks can be taken by the time you reach level 30, so don't worry if you can't get all the perks you want in the early game, as you'll unlock them by the late game. Some perks are only useful in the early game, such as Train Hard, Fight Easy 1 and 2. They reduce the strength level requirements for weapons, which is only useful before reaching the higher levels in strength, so I recommend taking these early if you plan to use weapons with a high strength requirement. Are you tired of listening to traders repeat the same dialogue over and over again? You can skip the dialogue by holding Alt near a trader and go right into the trading menu. This also works for repairs for armor and weapons. When you make a mistake at smithing or alchemy, Henry will tell you what went wrong.
Damn, it's burning.
If you make multiple mistakes, he'll only mention one of them, but pay attention to what he says so you can fix it for the next attempt. Don't load your horse up to the max capacity with loot because it won't be able to exceed walking speed. Even just a couple pounds less can make a huge difference and allow you to gallop around instead of walking back home. People will make comments about you being stinky, dirty, or bloody.
Oh, what a stench! You ought to be ashamed!
It's more than just vanity though. Not being clean makes it hard to pass some chat checks, so be sure to clean up often. Troughs will clean blood but not much dirt. Using soap near a laundry spot will clean all your clothes. But to get fully clean, you need to go to the bathhouse, where they can handle everything in one place.
I've heard the girls here can work wonders.
The autosave system is very different in KCD2. Previously, it would only keep 20 to 30 save files and then start overwriting the old ones. Now you can have hundreds of saves to go back to. But be aware, main quests and manual saves like sleeping on a bed you own or drinking save your schnapps will not get overridden, but side quests will. So be sure to manually save for spots that you know you'll want to go back to later. There are several quests in the game that will be made much easier if you have the right potion on hand. My recommendation is to keep at least 1 to 2 of each potion in your inventory at all times so you don't have to run back to pick it up. They only weigh half a pound each, and there's 24 potions and 3 poisons, so it won't take up that much weight. We'll be doing a full guide to 100% achievements soon, and I don't want to give any spoilers here, but if you're planning on getting all of them, I recommend reading through the full list and taking notes of town names, character names, and so on that you'll come across, so that when you come across something from your list, you can make a save file before you proceed. This will make backtracking to get those achievements later so much easier. If you're planning on doing something dirty like digging up a grave, be sure to remove your clothing so you don't get them dirty. Thanks to the new outfit system, you can quickly switch to an empty outfit to get the job done, wash up, and put your clothes back on. It'll save you time and money on the dry cleaning bill. When you bump into other people or animals, it takes a chunk of your stamina and theirs away. If you bump into somebody when you have 0 stamina, it'll instead take away HP, so be careful when you're running through a crowded area with low stamina, or you'll take a ton of extra damage for no reason.
I'm kind of retarded.
Charisma from clothing can be tricky to understand. Each article of clothing has an associated charisma with it, which can be lowered by dirt, blood, or damage. Your character's charisma is an average of the items they're wearing. So if you have a really high charisma shirt, but wearing bigger pants and shoes, your overall charisma will be quite low. The size of the clothing you're wearing also has a weight in the equation. A ring will have much less effect on your charisma when compared to a big jacket. And only the outermost layer of clothing counts towards your charisma. So in order to have a high charisma character, have good quality clothing with high charisma stats, keep them well maintained, cleaned, and on the outermost layer, and keep your body clean. You can use stones to knock bird nests down to the ground. These nests can have amazing loot sometimes, anywhere from eggs for food to expensive jewelry and even smithing materials. It's basically free money. You can have up to 3 different outfits to equip with a single click, making it easier to go from full armor combat loadouts to fancy noble's attire or a set of dark, stealthy clothing. You must have the equipment in your inventory to set the outfits up, and removing any of those items from your inventory also removes it from that set, even if you're not currently equipping it. You can use the bathhouse for 3 different services. Clean your body and clothes only, clean everything and heal wounds, and finally everything above plus a bathhouse made to clean Henry's one-eyed snake or play his skin flute or whatever the kids are calling it these days.
Giggity giggity, giggity goo.
This gives you a boost to strength, agility, and vitality for several hours. You might also get access to your inventory from here since some places have a room with a bed and a chest. KCD2 is a massive game, and I'm sure I missed some good tips, so please share your best ones in the comments to help others out as well. If you're still on the fence about trying the game out, you can check this video where Griff does a review after 100% achievements and hundreds of hours. A huge shout out to the YouTube members and Patreon supporters who help support our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.